1347, the Sicilian port of Messina. 12 Genoese galleys sail in from the Crimea, carrying not just cargo, but something invisible that's about to flip the entire continent upside down. Picture this: sailors barely alive, covered in black swellings, coughing blood, while rats scurry across the decks. These ships are walking time bombs. The plague is already here, and it doesn't care who you are. Within weeks, half of Messina is dead. From there, the disease races across Italy like wildfire in dry grass. Fun fact most people miss: the plague had already killed millions in Asia years earlier. Europe just happened to be next, delivered courtesy of trade routes. And that arrival marked the end of one age.
Swollen lymph nodes the size of apples bursting under the skin. Fever that burns you out in 3 days. That's how the plague introduced itself, and nobody understood why it picked you. Think it was just a disease? No, it was pure chaos. People dropping in the streets, families barricading themselves indoors, but death seeped through every crack. Doctors wandered around in those creepy beak masks stuffed with herbs, but they were usually the first to die. Back then they blamed miasma, poisonous air rising from the earth, God's wrath, or even Jewish conspiracies poisoning wells. Nobody knew about fleas and rats carrying Yersinia pestis. In just 1 year it hit France, England, even Scandinavia. Millions gone. Can you imagine losing a third of everyone you know in months?
Venice, 1348. Authorities invent quarantine. The word comes from 40 giorni, 40 days of isolating ships. For the first time, Europe tries to fight an invisible enemy with rules. But imagine the streets, silent because the bell ringers are dead, bodies piled in mass graves. In Avignon, the Pope has to consecrate the Rhone River just so they can dump corpses into it. The horror was universal. Kings, peasants, priests, no one was safe. Ever heard of the Dance of Death? In the middle of the panic, people formed processions, whipping themselves bloody, convinced penance would stop the plague. It didn't. The disease kept spreading, turning whole cities into ghost towns where survivors wandered like shadows. 40% of Europe's population. That's not just a number, that's lives erased in 5 years. Suddenly, feudal lords realize there's almost no one left to work the fields. Here's where everything starts to shift. The survivors, peasants mostly, become incredibly valuable. They demand higher wages, better conditions. Land is suddenly abundant, labor scarce. Feudalism cracks. In England, the 1381 Peasants' Revolt explodes. Wat Tyler's rebels storm London, demanding freedom. Think about what that did. Before, you were tied to the land like property. After, you could choose where to work. Wages soar, food prices crash. The plague didn't just kill, it redistributed wealth on a massive scale. God has abandoned us. That's what people whispered in churches where priests died faster than laymen. Faith itself began to fracture. Religious hysteria hits fever pitch. Flagellants roam the roads, lashing themselves, singing psalms, blaming everyone for humanity's sins. In dozens of places from Germany to Spain, they burn Jewish communities alive, accusing them of poisoning wells. But look deeper. The church loses its monopoly on truth because prayers clearly aren't working. People start doubting, searching for answers outside dogma, in books, in observation, in art. New sects appear, like the Brethren of the Free Spirit, preaching that God lives inside us, not in stone buildings. The plague shattered the old certainty. Trade collapses, markets empty, fairs deserted. Yet out of the ashes, something new emerges. Italian bankers like the Medici get rich lending to the survivors. Here's the crazy part. Fewer people meant more innovation.
Watermills spread faster. Better plows appear because you have to feed the same population with fewer hands. Cities rebuild, but now they're built around commerce, not just agriculture. Surviving peasants flood into towns, becoming artisans and merchants. Free labor, open markets, entrepreneurship. The plague fast-forwarded the birth of capitalism by centuries.
Kings lose grip, too. In England and France, the 100 Years' War slows because armies melt away from disease. Power starts flowing toward the new urban elites. The old aristocracy gets poorer without peasant rents. Merchants and bankers get richer and louder. In Italy, city republics like Florence explode into cultural and economic powerhouses. Coincidence? No. The plague erased rigid hierarchies. Widows suddenly run businesses and own property. Women gain economic footholds they never had before. Even medicine changes. Universities in Bologna and Paris start dissecting corpses, something unthinkable earlier. The old taboos fall. By 1353, the worst wave recedes, and Europe staggers out of hell a different place. The Renaissance is already stirring, with Leonardo and Michelangelo just around the corner. This new Europe is more mobile, more skeptical, more inventive. Columbus will sail. The Reformation will shatter the church. The roots of all that lie in the pandemic of 1347 to 1351. Ever wonder why the modern world feels so different from the Middle Ages? The Black Death didn't just destroy, it forced humanity to adapt, innovate, question everything. Catastrophe became evolution, and we're still living in the world it helped create.